News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. On the Mark is powered by Kunes Country Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area at 221 North 36th Street, Quincy. Faith, family, and giving back. That's Kunes Country. And now, here's Mark Hespin.
Good morning, Tri-States, and wherever you may be listening on the News Talk 1070 KHMO app. This is On the Mark. I am Mark Hespin. Brought to you by Kunes Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. You got to ask them about that lifetime powertrain warranty on new and used vehicles. Start of a new month. They're having a big March Madness sale later this month over at the dealership. So stop by Kunes Honda Hyundai and ask them about that. Just tell them Mark sent you. Welcome on into episode 226 of On the Mark on this Saturday, March 2nd, broadcasting live from our KHMO studios here in the heart of Quincy. I got a great show for you planned today. I have never been, so far this NBA season, so fired up to kind of talk NBA. And we'll start with a little NBA talk because I think something is becoming really, really clear for us now in the NBA. And so I feel strongly about something and that I want to attack it full force. As always, follow me on social media on Twitter/X or Instagram and YouTube. All three of those places you can follow me. Just search at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. If you're listening on the terrestrial radio or the KHMO app, thank you so much. We appreciate you. You can always follow along on the On the Mark KHMO Facebook page as well. We got the Facebook Live up and going today. We'll talk NBA. I got a little NFL free agency. Also, the teams that really need a quarterback are actually less than you'd think in the NFL. We're starting to hear about how many quarterbacks are going to go in the first round of this draft. I'm just going to give you a little pump the brakes a bit on the quarterback talk here. We'll get to that and then wrap up the show with a couple quick hitters. Last week at this time, I was begging the Cubs to sign Cody Bellinger. And here we are a week later, and they got him. So we'll some quick thoughts on that to wrap up the show, including what to watch. Coming up later on KHMO today, before we jump into it, I want to make sure you know St. Louis Cardinals are in spring training taking on the Houston Astros from West Palm Beach, Florida. John Rooney, Ricky Horton, and Mike Claiborne bring you the action on KHMO. 11:55 pregame, 12:05 first pitch. Then the Mizzou Tigers are at home against Ole Miss Rebels. Coverage begins at 7, tip-off at 7:30 tonight on 1070 KHMO, the News Talk and Sports Leader. Let's get into it. Hespin headline number one. Let's talk a little NBA, shall we?
Hespin's headlines on the Mark.
Something has become very clear to me in the National Basketball Association. We are officially on and headed towards a collision course in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of nice teams in the Eastern Conference. You know, Philly, they're a nice team. Cleveland is a very nice team. You look around the Eastern Conference, and the Knicks are a very nice team. Nice story. The Bulls are a nice team. The Raptors. But there's two teams in the East. It's very obvious now. And there is a collision course lining up. The Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. We are getting ready for a collision course between the Bucks and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics winners of 10 straight. Last night, they took care of the Mavs very easily at home, 138-110, even though Luka had a 30-point triple-double. Luka's a lot of fun to watch. He's been phenomenal this year. But even with Luka having a triple-double, 30-point triple-double, the Celtics win by 28. It's an incredible starting five. I mean, when you look at the starting five for the Boston Celtics, you have Tatum, you have Brown, you have Porzingis, you have Holiday, White. They have length, they have shooting, they can defend. It's a really, really elite starting five. And then you have the Milwaukee Bucks, which since the All-Star break have really turned it on. They're getting rolling now with Doc Rivers. The Milwaukee Bucks' third best record in the East, one of the top 7 records in the NBA. And what's so unique about Milwaukee is they are now finding this rhythm, and they don't even have Middleton healthy. Middleton hasn't played since early February. He sat out the last 10 games as they're trying to put it all together. You bring Middleton back into the fold with Giannis, who went for 46 and 16 last night against the Bulls. Just bully ball. Giannis, I think there's a real case for him to be the MVP this year. He's just been terrific, scoring at will. And you team him up with Dame and Middleton when he gets back healthy, and the size that the Milwaukee Bucks bring to that series. You have Giannis and Middleton. Middleton's basically a 7-footer. Giannis is basically a 7-footer with his bulk and his size. And then you forget, Lopez and Portis as well. So much size in that front court. When you add in Pat Bev defensively at the guard position, and the scoring from Damian Lillard, this Milwaukee Bucks team is an absolute handful. Absolute handful. And they have, with Malik Beasley scoring at the guard position as well. You look at Danilo Gallinari, a veteran forward who brings size off the bench. Pat Connaughton, who can get a bucket in his great minutes off the bench. This is a really deep Milwaukee team with a ton of size. Middleton, Giannis, Portis, Lopez. You add in Gallinari. A lot of size, a lot of veterans, and they are going to be a handful against that front court for Boston with Porzingis and Al Horford and Tatum. It's going to be an absolute collision course. We're on a collision course. Now, listen, you know that I favor Milwaukee in this. I think Milwaukee's got the better player in Giannis. He's got the best player in the series. I think they have the guard who I trust the most in Dame in big spots. But that starting 5 from Boston, they can shoot the lights out of the gym. And with Porzingis, and them actually getting to play minutes here down the stretch together, they're going to be really, really tough. The only thing that can throw a wrench in this is that Jimmy Butler Miami Heat team. They're just kind of lurking. I really think the Eastern Conference is a 2-team race. Even if Embiid comes back, will he be 100% and healthy and that 76ers team with Embiid? I don't worry about them causing a big wrench. This is a 2-team race. It's Milwaukee, it's Boston. They're on a collision course in the Eastern Conference. The only little thing is that Miami Heat team and Jimmy Butler lurking in the distance, because we've seen Miami beat Boston and we've seen Miami beat Milwaukee. So they're kind of out there lurking in the distance. But I really think this year it's a 2-team race. Giannis is playing lights out. Dame, I think, will be a huge difference maker for the Bucks in the playoffs when they need to get a bucket and they need to get a shot. It's going to be a fascinating kind of collision course. The West is wide open. I love the Nuggets. I really think the Nuggets are probably my favorite if you made me have to look and choose right now, early March, in the West. But, you look at the Suns, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, all playing good basketball right now. The West is going to be a brutal slog. The East, it's a 2-team race. The Knicks don't have the size and the consistent scoring to deal with either Boston or Milwaukee. Cleveland has size that I like with Allen and Mobley, but I just don't think consistently they have the scoring to keep up with a Milwaukee or a Boston team. Philly, if Embiid comes back, has good size, but again, I don't like their scoring besides Maxey at the guard position. And Miami. Miami is lurking. But I think there's something different about this Bucks team now that Miami can't get by this Bucks team with Dame Lillard. I just don't think they can. And can Miami cause Boston to have fits? Certainly. They defensively. But Boston, you'd like to think with Drew Holiday, they can handle a little bit more of the toughness that Milwaukee brings. And I think Boston, credit to them, moving Marcus Smart out, bringing Jrue Holiday in, they're a little less combustible. Jrue Holiday gives you everything that Marcus Smart did, plus a little more offense, and he's not as combustible. He'll let Tatum and Brown lead the group a little bit more. And Porzingis with his size and shooting is an element that, obviously Boston didn't have when they lost to Miami last year. I think it's a two-team race in the East. It's a two-team race. Yes. I know Cleveland's ahead of Milwaukee. In the standings. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that at all. There's still 20 games, about just under 20 games left for these teams. They're tied. Milwaukee's got a game on them in the win column. They're a game back in the loss column. Milwaukee's going to pass by Cleveland. They'll get to the 2 seed. You're going to be Boston and Milwaukee 1 and 2, then leading towards a collision course to the Eastern Conference Finals. If Miami can get out of the play-in tournament and find their way into that 6 seed and pass Orlando, that'll be helpful for them in really trying to upset one of the two and play in a second round series. But trust me, neither Milwaukee or Boston want to see Miami in the first round. That's for sure. Because Miami is the legit thorn in the side for both of those two teams. And in the West, as I said, wide open. If you made me pick today, I think I like Boston. I like the Bucks to take down the Celtics. I think that they have the size, and Giannis is the best player in that matchup. Love Tatum, love Brown. Porzingis has really meshed well with them. I think Jrue Holiday is a great fit, a better fit than Marcus Smart. But I think there's something special that Milwaukee's got brewing. If they can find a way to ratchet it up, win games down the stretch, get to that 2 seed, and avoid having to play the Heat in the second round or the first round. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. When we come back, I want to take a look at free agency in the NFL. It's going to kick off here soon as we have the tag deadline coming up on Tuesday. And I want to focus on one very big position. It's an important position. And there are a ton of big names that could be hitting the market. And I have some destinations I'd like to see them end up in. We're live. We're local on America's News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. It's On the Mark.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. We are brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. When you stop by the dealership, I know that you're new Hondas, new Hyundais, but maybe you're in the market for a brand new Jeep. Maybe you're in the market for a brand new Ram. I'm telling you, stop by the dealership and ask them about that. The network of dealers with the Kunis family, they can do some really special stuff. All right, let's keep it rolling. Episode 226 of On the Mark. Follow me on all social media at Mark Hespin. Follow the show On the Mark, KHMO on Facebook. It's Hespin headline number 2.
Hespin's headlines On the Mark.
NFL free agency will get going here soon as the combine is going on. This is a really important time of the NFL offseason as the NFL world has descended on Indianapolis. Teams are starting to figure out their needs. And one of the big things that gets figured out before the draft is free agency. Free agency will answer a lot of your questions then to say, what do we need to attack in the draft? And there's some nice running backs coming out in the draft. Corum out of Michigan, one of them I think very highly of. But the running back market in the free agency is going to be wild. We got news this week that the Giants and the Raiders both are going to try to get deals done with Jacobs and Saquon respectively. But if they don't, they will not be tagged. So there is a very high likelihood that later this week, you're going to have some giant names in the running back world hit the free agency world. Think about this. Tony Pollard looks like he's going to be a free agent. He's 30 years old. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, who was great for the Lions 2 years ago, had a really nice season with the Eagles this year. He's only 25. He's going to be a free agent, it looks like. Austin Eckler, 29 years old. He's going to hit free agency. Derrick Henry, Tractorcito, 30 years old. He looks like he could be hitting free agency. And then when you add in A.J. Dillon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Zeke Elliott all hitting the free agency market, you're talking about big names, running back names in the free agency world. Only two guys that I mentioned there are 30 years old. Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard. Now, Zeke is 29. He's an older running back. Austin Eckler is 29. He's an older running back, and you got to find unique situations for them. But I think I have a couple that I really like. So hear me out on some of these. I think, first and foremost, let me just state this. If you're the Giants and you're the Raiders, you should absolutely try to make sure you sign Jacobs and Saquon. You want them to stay with your organizations. I get it, you don't want to overpay, but the Raiders maybe drafting a rookie quarterback, having a great running back like Josh Jacobs will be extremely helpful for that young player and the identity of your offense. And again, if you're the Giants and you're rolling it back with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley is absolutely worth a 2 or 3 year deal to make sure that Daniel Jones looks competent in your offense next year. So I'll start with that. But if these guys hit free agency, let me give you some sneaker teams that I think would make sense for some of these big names. We'll start with Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry in Baltimore would be a slam dunk home run. Derrick Henry with that really aggressive run style, downhill running style of the Baltimore Ravens, sign him to a 2-year deal at about, $10, $12 million a year to team up right now with Lamar Jackson. They're in a win now mode. They always seem to have running backs hurt. And I just think that if you could sign Derrick Henry, who's a very durable back, and bring him into Baltimore and kind of go all in, maybe really like a 1-year deal, front load it, but 2 years. The Baltimore Ravens are in win now mode. Absolutely. They have a Super Bowl roster. The window is open. Adding a Derrick Henry to complement your MVP quarterback, I think it makes a ton of sense. I think he fits in that scheme. I think he fits in that culture. I think that when you look at Joe Burrow coming back healthy in Cincinnati, you've got to find a way to make sure you maintain control of the AFC North. The Steelers might be bringing in a new quarterback. The Browns have an extremely good roster and a great head coach. I think it only makes a ton of sense to bring him in. Now, the reason I would be concerned, I would choose, how do I want to word this? The reason if I was a Baltimore fan and I was Baltimore, I would choose Henry over some of these other guys is because I think the health of Derrick Henry is better than the health of some of these other guys. And if you're Baltimore, you just can't afford to bring in dudes who've had real health concerns. It doesn't make sense. And Derrick Henry can take a lot of pressure off of Lamar Jackson running the football. Derrick Henry, and it fits with the style of everything that Baltimore wants to try to do. Ground and pound, wear you down, and then breaks a big run. And then as soon as you're done dealing with Derrick Henry and he's beating up that front eight, there goes Lamar Jackson for a 60-yard scramble. Derrick Henry, I'd love to see him in Baltimore. It'd be great for the Ravens. Saquon Barkley. Where do I want to see Saquon Barkley? I want to see him in Chicago wearing a Bears uniform. Again, the Bears are going to go, if the Bears, either way they go, if they go Caleb Williams or they stick with Justin Fields, they have a ton of cap space. They got to spend some money. Giving Saquon Barkley a 2-year deal, front-loaded to basically be a really expensive 1-year deal, to pair him up with a Roschon Johnson, it makes a ton of sense. I know you're giving me the homer thing here, Austin, but let me explain it. If you're the Bears, either way, if you have Caleb Williams, you've got to support him as much as possible. And if you stick with Justin Fields, you've got to win ASAP. It has to be an all-in, win 8-9 games, make the playoffs next year, no matter who your quarterback is. So bringing in a Saquon Barkley signals to the fan base, we're going all in, whether it's to support your rookie or whether it's to build as best of a cast around Justin Fields as humanly possible. The Bears had a great rushing attack this year, but they didn't have a bell cow back. Saquon Barkley can be that bell cow back. Herbert is not the guy. Roschon Johnson would be a really nice compliment to Saquon Barkley. He's Saquon light. You bring in Saquon Barkley on a 1-year, 2-year prove-it deal. You give him a change of scenery. You bring him into Chicago, and the Bears want to run the football. The Bears were the second leading rushing team in football last year behind only the Ravens. So Saquon knows if he's going there, he's going to get carries. He's going to get a workload. And either way, he will get a chance to prove, that he's still an elite back in the league. Also, with the new Shane Waldron system that the Bears are bringing in, trust me, the Seattle Seahawks, the last 2 years, they like to run the football as well. I think Saquon fits into that system really well. It's a big market. It's a big brand. Walter Payton, great. Gale Sayers, great running backs. He can sell that to Saquon. You can pay him money because you have the cap space. And again, you're not going to give him a long-term deal. I'm not looking for a 3-year deal, but a high front-loaded 2-year deal. So he feels like I got my money, I got paid, and knows that he's going to be an integral part of an offense that has to win, has to put up points. I think it makes a ton of sense. There's a lot of places that would want Saquon Barkley. I think Chicago, if he leaves New York, is the one that he gains the most. And they could use him a ton, obviously. Here's an interesting one. I think personally Josh Jacobs is the best free agent running back. He's 26. I'd be comfortable giving him a 3-year deal if I was a team. With Josh Jacobs, he led the league in rushing 2 years ago. He's not far removed from that. He's overall been very durable. He's been in a messy situation in Vegas. The Raiders should try to keep Josh Jacobs. That's number one. If you are Josh Jacobs, there's a lot of places I would look to go. But the number one place I would look to go if I'm Josh Jacobs, I would look to head to Jerry Jones, and I'd want to put a star on my helmet. The Dallas Cowboys are also in a win-now mode. They have a very good offensive line. They want to get back to running the football. Dak is better when he has a bell cow back, a true bell cow back. Tony Pollard wasn't the guy. So if you are Dallas, and Jerry Jones loves to spend money and loves to bring in a running back, I think that Josh Jacobs could get a 3-year, $50 million guaranteed, spread out over 3 years from Dallas, get a big, nice paycheck, shiny Dallas star on his helmet, and I think it would be actually a win-win for both the Cowboys and for Josh Jacobs. He would go to a situation that, again, loves to run the football, committed to winning now, a really good offensive line. Dak and CeeDee Lamb, there's some weapons around him. There'd be consistency. And again, if you're going to sign Dak to a contract this offseason, which I wouldn't, but the Cowboys are going to do it, well, then you need to support Dak. And Dak is better when he has a bell cow running back. The only true guaranteed bell cow running back that's worth a 3-year deal that's hitting the free agency market, in my opinion, is Josh Jacobs. And so I would absolutely, if I was the Dallas Cowboys, kick the tires on giving Josh Jacobs $15 million a year over the next 3 years, bring him in, put a star in his helmet, have a big press conference, and then it justifies whatever contract you give Dak because, again, you're surrounding Dak with legitimate talent. I think Josh Jacobs, if I was the Raiders, I wouldn't let him go. But if I was Josh Jacobs and I couldn't get the deal I wanted from the Raiders, I would absolutely try to be on a flight to Dallas ASAP and go get that Jerry Jones money. Again, a historic running back market, a historic running back team, and he's the only one of the free agent running backs I think is really worth the deal. There is an underrated back on this list who, again, I don't think the team should let him go. But if he finds his way to free agency, I think a team that should kick the tires, that should sign him to a really big, nice deal. A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers, can he find his way to Buffalo? I think he'd be a great fit in Buffalo. Cooks has came on really big there at the end. And I think Cook is a really nice running back. He's a shifty, straightforward downhill guy. Reminds me a lot of Aaron Jones. And who's been a terrific 1-2 punch with Aaron Jones over the last 3 years? A.J. Dillon. He's big. He's strong. He's a short yardage bruiser of a back. The Buffalo Bills are trying to change the identity into that type of team. If I was the Buffalo Bills and A.J. Dillon actually hits the free agency market, I would bring him in ASAP. And I would pair him with Cook, and I would say, we just now are going to commit to having this big two-back system to take pressure off of Josh Allen. I think it makes a ton of sense. Selfishly, as a Bears fan, I'm sick of seeing A.J. Dillon in Packers green and gold. He's a beast. He's a giant, physical running back. And I would love to get him out of my division. And I do think he makes a ton of sense in Buffalo. Buffalo should look to upgrade the running back position. Cook is really coming along now, heading into year 3. If you sign Dillon to a nice 2-year, 3-year deal, $9, $10 million a year, Buffalo can afford it, and it would commit to, hey, we're going to keep trying to run the ball. He's only 26 years old. He's still in his prime. He's been pretty durable in his career. I think he works in Buffalo. He worked in cold weather Green Bay. I think he works in cold weather Buffalo, helping out Josh Allen. The last one that I have a strong a desire to see happen is Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler, I think he will hit free agency. I think he's going to get out of LA with the Chargers. And if I were Austin Eckler and I were this team, I think it's a perfect match made in heaven. I think he should stay in the division, the AFC West, and I think he should find his way to the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. I think it would be a perfect match made in heaven. The Chiefs need to upgrade in their offense at the wide receiver position, especially. They need to go find a true wide receiver number 1. Rumor is Mike Evans is officially looking to test the market and wants to hit free agency. Kansas City, pick up the phone, make it happen. But if Kansas City's in this weird situation, right? They have a nice, strong offensive line. You should continue to try to find good offensive linemen and depth in offensive line through the draft, building that way. If you are Kansas City, you want to try to find a star number 1 wide receiver to pair with Rice so Rice can become a really good number 2 receiver. You have Kelsey. You can maybe draft a young tight end, draft some young offensive linemen. You have Pacheco, who you're not paying, who's your true RB1. You know who'd be a really good fit behind Pacheco as Clyde Edwards-Helaire is hitting free agency? Austin Eckler. He'd be really fun to watch in Andy Reid's offense. Versatile. Catch the ball in the back here. Sign him to a 2-year deal that's basically a 1-year deal that pays him a lot. As you try to go for a 3-peat, Austin Eckler, I think, could be a huge, huge piece for Kansas City trying to 3-peat. Absolutely. If not, bring Clyde Edwards-Helaire back on a 1 or 2-year deal because he's kind of Austin Eckler light. But I think if you could go get Austin Eckler on kind of a prove-it 2-year deal, 1 year, but it's really a 1-year deal, I think that would be awesome for the Chiefs. I think it'd be awesome for Austin Eckler. I think they'd be a really, really great fit in Andy Reid's offense. So those are the 5 I'd like to see. I'd like to see Derrick Henry in Baltimore, Saquon in Chicago, Josh Jacobs in Dallas, A.J. Dillon in Buffalo, Eckler in Kansas City. But you have DeAndre Swift out there. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's going to be a free agent. You also have Zeke, who's going to be a free agent. Tony Pollard is going to be a free agent. There are a lot of free agent options at the running back position. And I think a lot of that will determine what ends up happening in the draft. DeAndre Swift in Los Angeles with the Chargers makes a lot of sense. DeAndre Swift in Los Angeles with the Rams makes a lot of sense. Anywhere that needs if you miss out on Josh Jacobs and you really want a, kind of a bell cow back, maybe Miami with DeAndre Swift, Or heck, even the Eagles re-signing him, I think all of those places make a lot of sense. If you are the Raiders or the Giants and you lose out on Saquon or Jacobs, can you bring in DeAndre Swift, younger, a true 3-down back for a better, more affordable deal? Then do it. I don't think he makes as much sense in Buffalo as a AJ Dillon. I don't think he makes as much sense in a Kansas City as an Austin Eckler. I'd like him in Chicago, but at that point in time, I think Chicago, you either run it back with the running backs you have, or you draft a Blake Corum if you're Chicago, and you say, hey, we need to go draft a true number one back. But I think Saquon or Josh Jacobs are the targets the Bears need to be after. That's who the Bears need to be after. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. When we come back, we'll talk quarterbacks in the free agency market as things are about to hit. There are less teams that desperately need a quarterback than you think. I'll explain that coming up next. We're live, we're local on America's News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. It's on the Mark.
Right arm, right leg.
Left leg, left arm.
Both legs above the knee.
Both legs, part of my left hand.
Lost both my legs in Iraq.
These 9/11 veterans are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and pull-down cabinets that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family. This life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans, thanks to our donors and supporters. But we need you to join us, too, in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
At Smile Train, we understand that most children with clefts need a little extra care to help them grow healthy and strong. Visit smiletrain.org to learn how Smile Train is supporting the cleft community with lifelong smiles.
Here's your weatherology forecast from the News Talk 1070 KHMO Weather Center. Ample sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 68. Winds out of the south, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 50. Tonight, clear skies. Tomorrow, highs level off around 77. Right now, 45.
Welcome on back to On the Mark here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app, brought to you by the great people at Kunis Honda Hyundai, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. You got to ask them about that lifetime powertrain warranty, the no fear warranty on new and used vehicles. Just tell them Mark sent you. Coming up later today on KHMO and the KHMO app, the St. Louis Cardinals are in spring training, taking on the Houston Astros from West Palm Beach, Florida. John Rooney, Ricky Horton, and Mike Claiborne, they bring you the action on KHMO, 11:55 a.m. pregame, 12:05 p.m. first pitch. Then tonight, the Mizzou Tigers, go Tigers. They are home against Ole Miss and the Rebels. Coverage begins at 7, tip-off at 7:30 tonight on 1070 KHMO, the News Talk and Sports Leader. Welcome on back to the show. If you're just joining us, as always, follow me on all social media at Mark Hespen. That's Twitter/X, YouTube, and Instagram, MarkHespen. Follow the show on the Mark KHMO on Facebook. So I want to talk quarterbacks here. And in order to start the discussion on quarterbacks and kind of the free agency with quarterbacks, you really have to think about which teams absolutely need a quarterback. If the season started tomorrow, I would argue there are two teams that are absolutely SOL with quarterback. They are in extreme trouble. And that would be Atlanta and the Raiders. Okay? The Raiders, Aiden O'Connell ain't it. Jimmy G ain't it. And you're in a world of hurt in that division. And Atlanta, you got no one. Heineke ain't it. Ritter ain't it. And in that division being so open, you've 100% got to find a quarterback. Those two teams are desperate. They are desperate. if Atlanta and the Raiders don't make big offseason quarterback moves, aka draft, sign, or trade, then they're dead in the water next year. There are teams, Washington, New England, Denver, who, listen, you have Sam Howell, you have Mac Jones, you have Russell Wilson. All three of those guys, I believe, can at least play in the league, right? If you build or you round them correctly and you give them a real competent staff and some weapons, New England, I think they can play in this league. So they wouldn't be totally SOL. Now, do I think they all need upgrades or, AK in Denver's world, to just move on? Yes. I absolutely think that Washington, New England, and Denver should make quarterback changes. But they are not as desperate of need as Atlanta and the Raiders. I would put Atlanta and the Raiders at the top of that need pyramid. The next tier would be Washington, New England, and Denver. The third tier, and all these teams are together, but they're in different circumstances, would be Minnesota, Seattle, the Giants, and the Steelers. Okay, so the Vikings, to me, I think Kirk Cousins wants to stay in Minnesota. I think the Vikings would be smart to sign Kirk Cousins no matter what they do, unless they do one thing. If the Vikings trade up into the top three to get one of the top three quarterbacks, which in my world right now, the only quarterbacks I'd be willing to spend a top 5 pick on right now from my process would be Williams, May, or Daniels. So the Vikings can find one of those three guys and they move up. Well, then you wouldn't need to sign Kirk Cousins. But I don't think the Vikings are going to do that. And I don't think they should give up all that capital to move up. The Vikings are building something. They have a great offensive coach. They have the best wide receiver in the league. The Vikings need to add picks. They don't need to lose picks. They need to add picks. And so if I was the Vikings, I would sign Kirk Cousins, and I would absolutely, Austin, my Vikings fan, he's on Facebook Live. He's absolutely 100% correct. I agree with you 100%. If the Vikings sign Kirk Cousins to a 2-year deal that's really front-loaded, give him a big chunk of money this year, and just say, hey, 2-year thing, and then what you do is you draft a quarterback, whether one that you really like falls to you, because the Vikings, give me a second. I didn't write it down. I should have wrote it down, but I have it right here. Hold it. This is bad radio. The Vikings are picking at 11. So if a Daniels falls, if a Bo Nix falls, if you like J.J. McCarthy a ton, or you like Michael Penix a ton, I'd be really comfortable if Minnesota took any 4 of those at 11, Nix, Daniels, McCarthy, or now Penix. Now, again, I haven't done all the film study yet. In my world right now, I think of those 4, I like Daniels the most. Then I like Nix, Penix, McCarthy. I think McCarthy is the least talented of those 4. I think he's the least talented of the 6 that are being talked about as possible first rounders right now from my film study. So Minnesota is not desperate. I would sign Kirk Cousins. I would try to draft one of those 4 guys in the first or second round, and then I would roll it out and keep building. You bring that guy into camp, and that way, if he doesn't work, he gets a year. That guy gets a year or 2 to work behind Kirk Cousins, and you can really develop him, and you can build that relationship in practice with Jefferson, and then Jefferson can kind of give you the yes or no. We need to move with this guy, or not. He's not the guy, and move forward, right? And you play it off of keeping Jefferson happy and healthy. Seattle's in a good spot, right? You got a new head coach. You have Geno Smith. You're not paying him nothing compared to what other quarterbacks are. They should absolutely do what I just said the Vikings should do. Seattle is picking at 16. If one of those 4 guys falls to you, great. And if you like them, great. I think Seattle with Penix, with Bo Nix, 2 guys that just played in that region, the fan base already knows them and likes them and watches them. If you can bring in a Nix or a Penix, they fall to you at 16, sit behind Geno for a year. It's a great situation for Seattle to be. The Giants and the Steelers. If I was the Giants, I would absolutely, if one of those guys falls to the second round, in my early second round pick, I would take one of those guys. If you're the Giants and you can get J.J. McCarthy or Nix or Penix in the second round, I would absolutely take a flyer on them. If they're not there early in the second round, then there's some guys in the third round, the kid out of Notre Dame, Spencer Rattler. They got to draft a quarterback in round 2 or 3, and just have someone so when inevitably Daniel Jones is the disaster, they can throw someone out there just so their season can be like, oh, we're gonna see how the kid does with your head coach with Daboll. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the one team I would argue should not draft a quarterback. They need to be more aggressive in who's available from the veteran side. If I was the Steelers, I would absolutely look at bringing in Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins. Those are the guys I'd be in the sphere of. And one of those guys, bring them in and compete with Kenny Pickett and say, Russell Wilson, one of those 4 guys would be like, best man win. And that way, if that person, whoever wins the job and crushes it and leads you to the playoffs, fine. You roll with them for another year or 2. And if you stink and you don't make the playoffs and they're all just a mesh, then you fresh start all over, all in on a quarterback next year. Pittsburgh, I don't think should draft a quarterback. Don't waste the draft capital on a quarterback in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Bring in a veteran to compete with Pickett, and then may the best man win. When we come back, a couple quick hitters to wrap up the show. We're live and local. It's On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO, brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. I care deeply about creating a world we can all fully participate in, free from stigma, misperceptions, and barriers. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Rooted in communities nationwide, Easter Seals helps empower millions of people, regardless of age or disability, through its life-changing services and powerful advocacy. Today and every day, Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
.1070 KHMO.
On the Mark. Welcome on back. I'm Mark Hespin. Follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, on X, at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. Wrapping up the show here. A couple quick hitter topics. About 4 minutes left in the show. Thank you so much to Cunis Honda Hyundai. ShopCunis.com. Go to ShopCunis.com. Check out their entire network of dealers. Over 3,000 new and used vehicles to choose from in the network. ShopCunis.com. The White Sox Stadium debacle here in Illinois, I would not give the White Sox a cent of taxpayer money to build a stadium. The White Sox can't even build a winning team. Jerry Reinsdorf is the worst owner maybe in all sports now. They're eliminating a lot of bad owners. He might be the worst owner in all sports. The Bulls stink. The White Sox stink. He's garbage. Don't give him a dime. Let the White Sox go if they want to go. Let him go. If he wants to move him, and he is a joke. He's a joke. He's not going to move the White Sox because he's a coward and he's cheap. He's a coward and he's cheap. Don't give him a cent. The White Sox, build your own stadium. Then Jerry can sell the team at that new stadium for multiple billions of dollars, and he could just own the Bulls and be a joke. Don't give him a cent. Cubs signed Cody Bellinger. Love it. I truly now believe the Cubs are the team to beat in the NL Central. Sorry, Cardinals fans. But Arenado and Goldschmidt, they have got to come back and prove it this year. Wilson Contreras has got to prove it this year. Sonny Gray, your opening day starter, he's very good, but the Cubs added to their pitching staff. I think the Cubs and Cardinals battling the NL Central is going to be, it's going to be toasty. Can't wait for it this year. But Cody Bellinger, I think I think the Cubs, I'm taking the Cubs to win the NL Central. Finally, what am I watching this weekend? A lot of good stuff to watch this weekend. NBA today, Lakers Nuggets 7:30 on ABC. Like the Nuggets, they are the team to beat, in my opinion, in the West. This is a rematch of the Western Conference Finals. LeBron has been on a tear. What he did the other day in the fourth quarter versus the Clippers, listen, he's not better than Michael, but he is the second greatest basketball player of all time. A full period stop. He's amazing. He's brilliant. He's phenomenal. And he deserves his flowers. He's incredible what he's doing in year 21. Sunday, great game. Warriors-Celtics rematch the NBA Finals 2 years ago. Warriors coming on strong since Draymond Green coming back. They moved Clay to the bench. Celtics are the best team in basketball, so this will be a really interesting matchup to watch for. Sunday on ABC 2:30. If you're looking for college basketball this weekend, 3 great games all today. Number 7, Kansas, or underdogs at Baylor. Baylor's got a star freshman who can ball. Number 15, Baylor. That's a battle. Winner of this game, they could be fighting for a 2 seed in the tournament, 3 seed in the tournament. Number 5, Marquette. They're battling for a 1 seed. They're at Creighton, who just demolished UConn, but UConn demolished Marquette. I like Marquette at Creighton in an upset. That'll be a great game to watch. Number 4, Tennessee at Alabama. Tennessee, again, adding to their resume, trying to solidify a 1 seed. A win on the road against Bama would help. Women's college basketball, can't miss. Noon on, I think, Fox. Number 2, Ohio State at Caitlin Clark. And number 6, Iowa. Watch that game, and then it goes straight on Fox from that game. And Caitlin Clark, the best player in college sports, straight into NASCAR. Vegas, baby. Brad Keselowski's had the best car in NASCAR 2 weeks in a row. He's been wrecked. My guy Keselowski, he's going to win it. Upset in Vegas this weekend. To follow me on Instagram, on X, on the Mark, at Mark Hespin.